Connor, Mark Thompson, you have your reservations.
Well, first of all, it's important to say that Drew Harris is not a single-dimensional person. As a person who works in a victims' organisation and a human rights organisation, I first want to acknowledge the fact that he suffered a horrendous bereavement in the conflict when his father was killed by the IRA and his mother injured. And I want to kind of set that in the record. But he has been a senior police officer in his professional and public life, and that's what we're focusing on probably today. In that role as a senior member of the RUCNN, as the PSNI, and particularly around C2 and C3, the criminal ops end and the intelligence end, he has been a persistent problem in terms of dealing with the legacy of the past. And your previous caller talked about wanting to cause trouble over legacy. People want accountability for what happened to them during the past 3 decades of conflict, and they're entitled to do that. And Drew Harris and the PSNI have been on the wrong side of the line around legacy with the European Court, the European Committee of Ministers of the Committee of the Execution of Judgments for the past 17 years have refused to sign off and give the UK a clean bill of health in that they implement proper procedures to examine past legacy events, because they are refusing to do so. He has been in court on the shoot to kill and has refused to provide evidence. The PSNI have been condemned in the High Court in the Flynn case for refusing to provide intelligence. So in terms of the International, the United Nations, the Special Rapporteur, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights at the UN in Geneva, the European Court, the European Union, and all of those regulations that are supposed to be standardised within domestic legislation in terms of policing have been breached. There's been a lot of talk about Drew Harris and managing conflicts of interest. Now, I don't believe Drew Harris has managed conflicts of interest, and there's one incident that demonstrates that quite clearly within this jurisdiction as a senior police officer. During the Legacy Inquest review, and we'll all be aware of the problems the Lord Chief Justice has had, along with the Department of Justice when it was under David Ford, of getting the resources to hold and hear properly legacy inquests, we had a preliminary round of hearings by Lord Justice Weir. During that, and also in the Roseanne Mallon inquest, a 76-year-old pensioner who was killed while the intelligence services observed the killing taking place by loyalists, what emerged in that case was that we learned that there was legacy information seminars that were hosted by the Northern Ireland Retired Police Officers Association, involving members of the Special Branch, who may have been called or may be called to inquests. And these legacy seminars were attended by the then Deputy Chief Constable Judith Gillespie and the then Assistant Chief Constable Drew Harris. And at those legacy information seminars, as senior police officers, they were advising and conducting mock processes in terms of what and schooling officers on what evidence they would give and how to avoid giving certain evidence. That's on record, all the notes are there. They said, we're in this together, we need to paint a better picture. This is a defining issue for the RUC. We're all proud of the RUC, we're all proud of what we've done. We need to protect our reputation. So that's the context of that. Now, as a senior police officer who is going along with retired and former serving police officers and advising them in that capacity, what if a coroner were to refer the matter or any former officers for wrongdoing? That certainly was a breach of a conflict of interest, massively, in my view. So he's demonstrated already where the vested interest exists. Even during the Smithwick's tribunal, he tried to flood the tribunal at the end with a lot of evidence that he wouldn't provide the intelligence for. And then it was described as its allegations, and some evidence he did provide was described by the then Senior Garda Commissioner as being nonsense on stilts. So there are serious issues around legacy, and not only the role in the Dublin Monaghan bombings, the Glenanne gang and so forth. So he's been on the wrong end of serious court judgments, serious international judgments, and now he holds the most senior position on this island in terms of policing.